Order, everybody have a chance to take a look at the minutes?
Yes.
I will move to approve as presented.
Second.
Motion second to approve. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Let's see here. Public hearing on a conditional use permit application for garage height to exceed 20 feet and garage area to exceed 1,000 square feet at 1321 3rd Street. Anka and Evan Corbile, they here? Corbile? Okay, sorry about that. All right, so this is a public hearing. And it's your opportunity to comment on this if you'd like. Do we have anybody on Zoom?
Nope.
Okay, so if anybody would like to make a comment, please step to the podium, identify yourself and your address. Try to keep your comments brief, try not to repeat other people's comments. So, does anyone have a comment? Any comment? Any comment? Any comment?
Move to close.
Second.
Motion is second to close public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Public hearing is closed. Conditional use permit application for garage height to exceed 20 feet and garage area to exceed 1,000 square feet at 1321 3rd Street. Anka, is it Anka? Anka? Okay. And Evan Corbio.
The property owner submitted a CUP application for an accessory building to exceed height and footprint square footage allowances in an R1 zoning district. The proposed footprint is 1,320 square feet, the maximum allowed by conditional use permit, and height of 23 feet 9 inches. Also included in the application is a request for an accessory dwelling of no more than 1,000 square feet on the second floor. A neighborhood meeting was hosted by the applicant on March 25th, 2025. Minutes and attendance record for that meeting are provided in your packets. A phone call was received by city staff from a neighboring resident inquiring if the development of the garage would impede use of the public alley. Staff informed them that blocking access to the public alley is prohibited unless a temporary construction easement were drawn up, and even then, all property owners would still retain the right to access their own private properties from the alley. So with that said, no other feedback was received by city staff, so we would recommend approval of this CUP application with the dwelling unit and listed conditions in the packet.
I just have one question. Is there a pool between the house and the garage? No?
No, it's a patio,
Patio.
just so there's an easier walkway than having to go in.
I knew there was something there. I just didn't know what it was. I drove through the alley and I just real quick and I couldn't see it. And,
Our neighbors have a large pool.
oh, it's your neighbor.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Move for approval with conditions.
Second.
I'll second that if we make sure that, you know, it can't be, it stays tied to the property and the owners and it can never turn into a separate rental. I mean, I think that's part of the zoning.
That's what the condition with the affidavit requirement is part of, so that should cover that.
Well, just to bring that
I
up
know,
and
just to
bring
make sure that
make
it was
out
clear.
in the open
Yeah.
so people understand that. So, yes.
All right.
Anybody else? All right, so we got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved. Public hearing on a conditional use permit application for garage height to exceed 20 feet and garage area to exceed 1,000 square feet at 800 Vine Street, Laura Butler. Again, this is a public hearing. It's your opportunity to comment on this. If anybody has a comment, please come to the podium, identify yourself, and state your address. Try to keep your comments brief. Try not to repeat other people's comments. Do we have anybody online?
Nope.
No? Okay. Does anyone have a comment?
Staff will note that there's 2 hard copy letters that were received, and everyone should have them on the Plan Commission. One from the Hansons at 716 Vine Street, dated March 19th, as well as one from the neighbor on the other side at 804 Vine Street, Pat Colton, dated May 4th.
Okay. I saw the second one. I didn't see the first. Was the first one in favor or opposed?
Which one?
The
Pat
first-
Colton's
no,
or
other
the
one.
Hansons?
That one, Hanson.
I don't know, and I don't know if the Hansons are here tonight at all.
I'm Laura, the property owner.
Okay.
So at the city, at the meeting that we had at my house,
Laura, do you want to just come up to the podium and kind of explain
Thank you.
your conversations with the Hansons.
Yep, so I had the community meeting at my house, and afterwards they gave me a letter, which I submitted with the minutes from the meeting. They didn't really talk much at the meeting, and in that letter they were opposed. We've had continuing discussions about what it really would look like and how it would be. They sent a supplemental letter in support of the project. That's one of the second letters that there was. And then Pat, the other neighbor on the other side, her letter was in support.
Okay.
And that was part of the packet that we saw, the follow-up letter from.
Yeah, so the first letter would have been what would have been in the application from the Hansons when they were not in support of it. And then they supplementally sent a letter that we sent, I think, to Tiffany to include that they now are in support of the project.
Okay, cool.
And that's what this letter is the
Yeah,
follow-up
kind of,
on.
yeah, they just gave me a hard copy, so I just sent it in.
I have one question
Just
for you.
hang on.
Excuse me?
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. As long as she's at the podium. That's cool.
Well,
Go ahead.
since you were up there, is there going to be access to this garage from the alley that's coming in off of 7th Street?
No,
No? It goes
There's
all
no
the way-
access to my
It goes all the way to
property.
your next door neighbor, though, I think, does it not?
nope, I have a driveway that comes off of
I know
Vine.
you do, but there's an alley that comes in behind it to serve the 700 block.
Oh, yeah, but that doesn't,
doesn't
that
go
doesn't come
in
on my
far enough?
property at all.
That was my question.
Yep, so there's no impact on the alley or, yep,
Thank you.
on either side. The other property has its parking, I think, coming up above Vine Street.
Okay. Anyone else have a comment? Any comment? Any comment? Any comment?
Will we close?
Second.
Motion is second to close the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Public hearing is closed. Conditional use permit application for garage height to exceed 20 feet and garage area to exceed 1,000 square feet at 800 Vine Street, Laura Butler.
So the owner and resident of 800 Vine Street has submitted a CUP application for a garage accessory building height exceeding height and footprint square footage maximums in an R1 zoning district. The proposed accessory building area is 1,300 square feet, and height is proposed as 23 feet. Also proposed is on the second floor an upstairs accessory dwelling unit of no more than 1,000 square feet as well. Given all the comments obtained from public, city staff would recommend approval of the CUP for 800 Vine Street.
I just have a point of information, clarification within the minutes of the meeting that was held. Suzie Corm as a city council member, I believe it should be Plan Commission, unless I missed an election.
Those are their
Oh,
notes.
sorry, yeah, it would be-
Just for the record, so it's quoted as Plan Commission. And then I will move for approval with conditions stated.
I'll second that.
Motion is second to approve. Any discussion?
I was, looking at the different projects that we have coming up. I've been going to these neighborhood meetings and they've been great. It's great hearing from everybody. Beautiful properties and 100% I'm in support of multi-generational housing. And our downtown, I think, kind of leans towards that in some ways with carriage houses and things like that. I love that. I think we're going to continue to see more and more of this as time goes on because I think it's a great thing. And with that, acknowledging the size of this, 1,000 to 1,300 square feet for a footprint of a garage with a second story, 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, elevators, every function you would need to live in these facilities. Again, 100% supportive. I think it's great. Going forward, it seems that we should acknowledge these for more than an accessory building and potentially look at what is our taxing. I haven't been able to, I did a little bit of research on it. I have not seen any consistent type of taxing across a variety of accessory buildings that I've seen downtown. And it's not a conversation for today at all, but I think going forward down the road, we should somehow maybe acknowledge that these are living facilities.
And not just a storage unit.
They're not storage units, they're not an office, they're living facilities.
And on
so-
that, well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on
Yeah,
you.
I think it's just, I think we just need to, just to acknowledge it. And again, you know, that's not a conversation for today at all, but it's just something down the road I think we should take into consideration.
And also, I was just thinking too, because we went through this, we built our garage recently, in the past 5 years. We stayed within the footprint that was required, but, and we have a room above, a bonus room above with no living, it's no running water, no toilets or anything in there. But I'm almost wondering that if someone is going to build a unit like these two are coming in, maybe we can have an extra, instead of coming to the council or to the committee and saying, hey, can we get an exception along Susie's lines, already have something in place that if it's going to be X, Y, Z, then this is the max that it can be, or if it's going to be a garage, it could be this. So they don't have, you know, so if we are gonna build more, if there's gonna be more of these built, if we, you know, get a abundance of people coming in saying, I need to go over the size, I need to go over the height, because I need to put in a 2-bedroom, or because I need X, Y, Z for living facilities, then maybe we already have an exception or another rule already in place for those particular units.
So you mean have separate dimensional requirements?
Requirements for a
accessory
living,
dwellings?
for an actual living unit above a
Right.
garage. Yeah, so if they're going to build a garage with a dedicated living space, they can follow up to this height, this dimension, this footprint.
I
And then-
feel if we did that, though, you'd be starting the great horse race of a huge zoning change in the city that everybody could see that they could double the use of your property. And why wouldn't everybody then want to get a garage apartment on their lot? Why wouldn't you?
I was just, yeah, I
mean, I'm
understand
just-
that too.
I'm not trying to
Right.
kick you in the knees here, but it
I
does,
just-
it makes you look at it like, well, hey, is this the new way things are done?
Right. I mean, if we just, you know, if we're requiring it to be an owner-occupied unit, that they can't rent out to so when we say that, they can't rent it out to an auxiliary family, is that how we're saying that it's an owner-occupied unit? Like, they couldn't rent it out to Joe Schmo who needs a place to rent? Is that what we're giving the
Correct.
definitions for this? So if we need to do, if, you know, if the city needs to do that, we're not building extra we're not building housing, we are building housing, because we're at a housing shortage here, and, you know, we don't have all the elderly housing or extended family housing, and that gives an extra option for someone to, if they can, build on those in-law suites for the family. We have the rules set in place for that exception.
But to Fred's point, I think it's nice that there's a public hearing.
Right.
So people can speak to it if you're gonna start throwing up buildings that are 2,000 square feet or.
Right, but I mean, like,
monstrosities.
well, I've noticed that both of these are staying within this, pretty much the same square footage.
Right.
And the same height.
Right,
they're
but
not-
they did have an opportunity, the neighbors and so forth, to voice
Right.
their concerns, and I think
Right.
that's
Well,
important.
you need a certain lot size to even consider it, too.
Right.
So there's a whole bunch of what-ifs, but it goes back to Susie's comments. I agree with you. You have to look at what's trying to be done and classify it, is what I think you're saying. Classify it as, we need to call it something and treat it a certain way.
Right.
Whatever that is, we don't know yet. But do that,
we have
and then that will
varieties,
help
yeah.
in the subject, you know, all the other stuff that we're kicking around right
Right.
now, but way down the road.
Yeah, we have varieties of types of garages and what their uses are. For someone, it might be an office with a half bath. Well, that's not really a living facility, probably,
Right.
but it's useful, you know, very useful. And then, you know, when you have something with 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, elevator
Kitchen.
shaft, and again, 100% do I support it, because I love the idea of multi-generational living. I really do, love that. So I'm just saying that I think we need to just be conscious of that. And then we've got another one here, which is a little bit different coming up, where they're asking to be R2, so that they have and that would be the difference, I guess, between the two, is that it's non-family rental.
Right.
And that, it seems to me that's the only distinguishing difference,
Right.
unless there's other things.
Can we get that on as a future agenda item? I guess is where I want to go with this.
Yeah.
Should.
Right, yeah,
Yeah.
down the road.
So let's do that.
I will add to the conversation here. We are, as a reminder, going through a zoning code update right now. So we are looking at the ADU
Okay.
requirements that we have and working on ways to
timing.
alleviate the different types of applications, how many we get, ways that'll make it so that things are a little easier for residents, but also, in a way, still allowing residents
voice their
neighboring.
opinion, right.
Yes, exactly. So, definitions of those things, that's a good point. We are looking to update a lot of those, so we are doing that. Dimensional requirements too. We haven't specifically set out anything differentiating accessory dwellings from accessory buildings, but it's something that I can bring up to Cedar Core next week during our meeting, so all good feedback. Thank you.
And these are great because they are, they're classy looking.
Yeah.
One,
Very traditional,
architecture is
yeah.
great. So, I think it is enhancing our properties. So that's the beautiful part of it.
All right, do we have a motion on that?
Yep. Randy, for all that.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Public hearing on a conditional use permit application for a master plan amendment of Park Place Village Divine Custom Homes. Once again, this is a public hearing. It's your opportunity to comment on this topic. If you do have a comment, please come forward, identify yourself, and give your address. Please try to keep your comments brief. Try not to repeat other people's comments. Does anyone have a comment? Any comment? Any comment? Any comment?
Move to close the hearing.
And I'll second.
Motion and second to close the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is approved. Public hearing is closed.
That
Or-
one was just a hearing, by the way, so moving on.
Forward a recommendation of the Common Council to set a public hearing for a rezoning application at 327 3rd Street from R1 Single Family Residential to R2 Two Family Residential, Todd Ellingson.
So here, the owner and resident of 327 3rd Street is proposing to rezone his property from R1 Single Family to R2 Two Family with no comprehensive plan land use designation changes. The purpose of the rezoning is to accommodate an accessory dwelling unit on the premises for eventual rent, whether long-term or short-term. Wasn't specified, but he has yet to apply for any sort of CUP or short-term rental license if he were to do that in the future. That would be something he would work with city staff through. The applicant is understanding that there is a moratorium on short-term home rentals at this time until June 3rd, unless the Common Council decides to extend it at their next meeting here in May. Neighborhood meeting was held at the residence. The attendance record and minutes from that meeting are provided in your packets. Otherwise, at this time, we are just looking to forward a recommendation to council to set a public hearing date.
Anybody?
I'll move to recommend to council to set up a public hearing date.
Second.
Motion is second to recommend public hearing date from the council. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is approved. Forward a recommendation of the Common Council to set a public hearing for a rezoning application of tax parcel 236-2046-01-000 to amend the comprehensive plan land use designation from neighborhood commercial to medium-density residential Divine Custom Homes.
Oh, that one.
So now here's once again another forwarding recommendation to council, set a public hearing date. The purpose behind this rezoning proposal is to amend the comprehensive plan land use designation from neighborhood commercial to medium-density residential in order to accommodate and develop several row home buildings. You'll note that there's a site plan provided in the packet, but that's meant more so as just like really preliminary conceptual. It's not something that's going to be slated permanently yet. There's likely to be changes that'll come up with that at the time when they do a development plan review application. So otherwise, density is proposed for what Divine is requesting construct there eventually, so that's why they're choosing medium density. Prior to application, the group did host a neighborhood meeting on April 3rd, of which the attendance record and minutes are once again in your staff report. And again, this is just requesting council set a public hearing date. Thank you.
Hard to know location.
Yes.
Anybody?
I'll make a motion to recommend to common council to set a public hearing date for this parcel.
I'll second it.
Motion is second for recommendation of the council. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Downtown design review for seasonal patio structure at 302 Vine Street, Brewski's Bread.
Owner and operator David Bruschi has submitted a downtown certificate of design review application to construct a seasonal free-floating ground-level wooden platform patio, approximately 512 square feet in area, providing approximately seating for 24 people. There will be patio space with benches and picnic tables, and is also proposing a steel rail non-permanent fence to enclose the space. Location would be on site above 4 parking spaces to the west of the building. It's noted that this property is B3 central business, wherein parking requirements do not apply to buildings under 6,000 square feet in gross leasable floor area, of which this building is very small and well within that range. So temporary removal of parking during the summer would still meet parking requirements in our zoning code. As the structure is proposed seasonal, it would be deconstructed prior to winter season and reinstalled in the spring. So therefore, city staff recommends approval with the seasonal structure listed in conditions, along with adding a couple other conditions that I forgot to note in the report, one of which would be the certificate only applies to Brewski's Bread. In other words, it would not run with the land. And that the structure is to be annually set up and removed in the spring and fall seasons respectively.
So do we have to tie this to his business? Is that what you're saying, or no?
Right, yep. So it'd only be applied to Brewski's Bread.
Which I think we should.
Yep.
I'll move to proceed with that. I think he was trying real hard to do a nice job, and why shouldn't we try to help him? So I would say let's help him.
Sounds good.
Second.
Got a motion and a second? Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. I don't have anything. Anybody?
One other thing, just downtown traffic at 5 in the morning, 5:30 in the morning. I don't know how many of you are on Second Street, but I'm down there. Yeah, I'm down there pretty much just about every morning around that time, and cars are flying through there. So, for example, if you were leaving Riverfront Athletic Club at, let's say, 6:30 in the morning, and you want to turn left, and there's a car about a half block away, you would assume you have enough time to make that left-hand turn. And there are times where it's a very close call when you're turning left, to go north. I'm just wondering. I mean, I feel like if I had to guess, they're going about 40, 45. Starting at about Walnut Street. Once they get through that, well, that light's only yellow. It's just flashing yellow until 6 a.m. anyway. So they can get a pretty good speed going through there. So not sure if this is part of our purview or not, but
It's really not, but
Yeah.
you're talking to the right guy over here.
Yeah.
Safety.
Well, actually, it's an extension of once you go east or south from the Dairy Queen out on the road, they've always sped along here. Now they're just speeding up earlier, and
Oh, yeah.
they're
It
starting
blocks.
back on Vine Street to get up to
Yeah.
45, 50 rather than
Right.
waiting to get down by the marina.
And then in addition to that, you've got the public parking lot mid-block between, what would that be, Walnut and?
Yeah.
By the bakery, yeah.
Yes, correct. And so many people try to cross right in the middle of the street there. And I just saw last week where I was out helping my elderly parents to get their car for them, and somebody stopped for some pedestrians, and the car behind him was not real happy. And when he got to go, holy cow, did he fly down the street. And I was like, oh, thank God my parents weren't in the street then, because they would never have been able to get out of the way. So anyway, and you see this, for those of us who spend a lot of time downtown, we see this
Up the cops down there for
every
a
day.
week, that'd fix
And
it.
I think there's a fair amount of revenue that could be, generated right now over
Yeah.
there.
That's
So,
illegal.
get
We
a-
can't say that out loud.
oh, whoops, didn't know that. Okay.
You could make your quota, Randy.
Yeah, so anyway, again, something for another discussion day. So.
Well, I think you ought to take that up. I mean, we hear a lot of complaints about traffic, speeding, and red lights.
And Third Street.
So, there you go, Randy.
Noted.
All right, anybody else?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion is second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. We stand adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.